Welcome to this video on software development methodologies. This is part 2 of a series of development methodology video. In this video, we are gonna continue the conversation of different methodologies or framework or models or whatever you want to call them. And again, software development is a process in which software is created, and these methodologies will define that process based on what we need from a software development perspective. Continuing the conversation, the next model we need to discuss is the Cleanroom Reference Model or CRM. This model is focused on embedding development and testing within quality control for a software product. The focus is to prevent software defects through rigorous engineering process. And that's probably the most important thing to know about the Cleanroom model. It is rigorous, very strict, and it consists of 4 different functions. They call them principal function, which is software management, specification, development, and certification. And these 4 functions are the principle behind this model. Now, this model was developed by Carnegie Mellon University or the Software Engineering Institute. And it gets its name from the concept of hardware cleanroom. If you have ever worked in a cleanroom, there are very strict procedure and processes and also engineering disciplines that focus on defect prevention rather than defect removal. In other words, when we are building hardware inside of a cleanroom, there are strict procedure about who can come in, who can come out, what kind of tools can go in, and that's why this model is so strict in its approach. And here's an example of what that model look like. So again, we have our 4 principles, but within those principles there are 14 different processes that you have to go through in terms of completing a project. So these 14 processes will produce 20 different work products such as guides, plan, and cases, and they will be used to prove that the software is defect free. So your first 4 procedures are up here. Well, we have to plan, we have project management, performance improvement, and then engineering change. Then we move to architecture specification in process number 5. Then we move to requirements analysis here at process number 6. And then as you notice, it's breakout. It breaks out to function specification and user specification. Then we start planning, and then we move through the entire process, and then eventually it gets delivered to the customer. So again, this is a very strict process. You do not need to know all of the processes. You need to know the principle of the exam. You need to know the principle for the exam. The processes you will not be tested on. So this is the Cleanroom model. Then we have the joint application development model. This development methodology is used to encourage continuous interaction between the user and developer. So the idea here is that we are jointly developing an application, and the idea is that the user wants something and the developer has the skill and the expertise to build what the user wants. So working together, we are gonna develop an application that this user really want. And this model can help us to reduce the time frames, our delivery times. It can reduce cost because of all the upfront engineering and all the other costs that happen as a part of that. And it can also improve the quality because you are getting direct feedback from the user. These are also called JAD session or JAD session. So we meet with customer, we work with them, they tell us what they want, they tell us what they need, and then we improve this product throughout the entire lifespan until we deliver it to them. And then we continue improving it based on what they want. So the JAD model is pretty straightforward. First of all, we define the objective. What is it that customer wants? What are the requirements? What are the scope? Who are the stakeholders here? And what are the expected outcome of this particular phase? Then we start what's called the session preparation. So now this is where we gather development information from all of the stakeholders. Again, what are your requirements? What do you want? And what are you looking to see as a minimum viable product? Now, the session leader or the facilitator will be responsible for executing all of these different sessions or these meetings. Then we have session conduct, where we actually fix software issues to make the software as error-free as possible. And then we move into documentation. When the customer's happy, we document all the result and we publish that for stakeholder review. So this is the JAD model. Now, related to the JAD model is the Rapid Application Development Model or RAD model. This was built in response to the perceived deficiency of the waterfall process. So if you remember the waterfall process from the previous video, it was rather structured. It was sequential model. This is all about working software rather than stringent project management process that you would find in the waterfall model. So we typically combined with this JAD model, and we also use computer-aided software engineering or CASE to automate the software development lifecycle phase. If you want to create a software prototype, do some research and development, or just spin up a product very quickly, this would be the model you would want to use. You are going to spend less time working through all the processes, researching and developing all the requirements and all other steps, and you are going to move straight into actually creating a product. And again, we are talking a minimum viable product, and then we refine it over time for that customer. And here are the steps of the Rapid Application Development Model. First, we start with requirements. What are the scopes? What are the requirements? What are the stakeholders and the expected outcomes for this particular product? Then we go into user design, where we gather the information from the stakeholders of what they are looking for in this product itself. Then we build it. Now we moved into construction, where we develop, update and test the working software. And finally, we perform the cutover, where we deliver the software to the customer or the operation. So the cutover is where we perform our conversation, our testing, the changeover, rollover, rollout, whatever you want to call it. That's when we turn this over to the customer and they can begin using it. So compared to the traditional development method, this is very condensed and compressed process. So this make it very, very efficient. So I know we talk about a lot of different methodologies. At this point, you might be asking, wow, which one do I use and when do I use it? So let's talk about all of the different methodology in a very quick review. If you want to methodologically approach to known requirement, you know the target environment, you know the software design, and you know the potential user. The waterfall model is what you want to use, because you are going to step through each step methodologically and you are going to think things through very thoroughly before you move to the next step. You'd want to use the waterfall model. This would be for critical application or any kind of application that process sensitive data, those kind of things. We would want to use waterfall model. We would use the spiral model if we want to respond quickly to development changes and risk in a larger complex project. So in this case, if we want to quickly introduce new change to product from a software risk standpoint, this is the model we want to use. Keep in mind, risk doesn't mean security risk. It means risks to the software product itself. If we want to faster waterfall approach with more flexibility to a project scope and user feedback, we would want to use incremental build model if we want formal engineering method with strict protection or process. We want to prevent any software defects, we would want to use Cleanroom Development Model. And then if we want constant user interface and satisfaction with short development time frame, the JAD model would be our choice. And also, if we want fast development and deployment, the fast user feedback, the RAD model would be the best choice, and this is your best choice for the research and development and also proof of concept project. No matter what model you choose, keep in mind that you do need well-defined requirement. No matter what, you need to know what the product should do, whether it's waterfall, whether it's JAD, RAD or incremental build. It doesn't really matter. You still need the requirement, cause that's the only way you are gonna build a product that the customer gonna be happy with, and it's the only we can build security into it as well. So you also want to clearly understand the preparation time, the cost and the effort before we select any of the different development methodologies. So in a following video, we are going to talk about things like agile, capability, maturity model, those kind of things. And you might be asking, how come we did not talk about agile? In the following video, I will ask about agile because I believe it deserves its own video. It's a pretty depth and there is a lot of different things that happen with an agile development. You will need to know it for the exam. So I wanted to cover it in its own video. The bottom line here is to understand the purpose of each of the development methodology we talk about here in this video.